Daren Millard packs up and goes to Vegas, cover the Vegas team, who is now in the second Stanley Cup Final. And Mallard, the gamble's paid off for you right now because you're 3 wins away from getting a Stanley Cup ring.
All in, buddy. All in.
How are you?
I'm good. It's you've been through it before as a player. You've been through this situation. I've never worked on the team side until I moved to Vegas, and they've been close a couple of times. But I'm not in the heat of the battle like a player would be, and you guys are so familiar with that. But even just from arm's length as a broadcaster working for the team and being part of the organization, it's giddy. It's totally you live and die with wins, and then you get to this stage and you start thinking about it and different possibilities, and it's surreal. Jen worked for the Toronto Maple Leafs, my wife, for 15 years, and I watched it from that point of view. But they never got close. Now this is 3 wins away from the ultimate glory. It's wild.
That's pretty awesome. There's a number of reasons, that the team has done so well and why they are where they are. We've been talking about Conn Smythe odds a little bit on this show.
Yeah.
Where do you have things right now? Is it a goaltending thing? You got a forward, a D-man? What are you thinking so far for if Vegas does get it done?
Well, I had 5 guys, and 5 guys deep is unusual going into a final from one team. But that just sums up the way that they approach things with their depth and rolling 4 lines and their 3 pairs on the blue line. But I went with Jack Eichel as my favorite because of the story, and he leads the team in points too. But the story is a big part of things when you get to this stage and what he's been through. And I have William Karlsson because of his impact on the game. Now you got to watch a little bit closer for William. He's produced goals and he's been involved in the offense more so than he has in the last couple of years, and he's really resurrected that part of his game. But his overall ability to match up against the McDavids or Draisaitl's or Rupe Hens through these playoffs have been awesome. And then I went Marchessault, Stone, and Stevenson. That's the 5 guys, and I went all forwards with my top 5. As good as they are on the back end, they're so balanced, and I just have trouble putting a goaltender in there when you've only played you missed a round. It's been impactful, but not a story for this team. So I went all forwards with Eichel leading the way.
Yeah, there's no question that Hill would have to have an incredible run, and they do value a final a lot more than they do the rest of the rounds. If you could,
yes,
and that shouldn't be lost here. And there is a lot of hockey to be played still in this series with just one under both teams' belt. And there's no question with Florida, we only look at 2 guys, Tkachuk and Bobrovsky. But I'm surprised you didn't put Pietrangelo in there because he is a guy that just commands so much respect out there. And I really thought, and we saw it, we've covered Pietrangelo with his run with St. Louis, but there's something that happened in that Edmonton series that showed me this other side to Pietrangelo that, for me, took him to another level.
And I'll go back a series against the Winnipeg Jets. He took a penalty in Game 2, but it sent a message to the Winnipeg Jets. They were able to kill that penalty off in Game 2, and they turned that game around after a not very effective first period. And they could have been on 2-0 in that series. And Brossoit was great in the first period of Game 2, and Pietrangelo didn't snap, but stood up to Winnipeg and sent a message to everybody in the building, and then did the same thing after being targeted, certainly the focus of the Edmonton Oilers, and sent a message with that slash and along with his play. And he's been really effective. But nobody really stands out on that blue line. Alec Martinez is one of the greatest players that you're going to see from a consistency basis. Love Braden McNabb. And their third pairing, you guys, Nick Hague and Zach Whitecloud, is as good a third pairing as you're going to find in the National Hockey League. So I don't disagree with you on Pietrangelo. It's just that they're so balanced back there, and it's just such a unique group that it's hard to put one guy over the other, because I feel like I'm almost slighting somebody else. And now Shea Theodore looks like he's finding his game.
So the Florida, I want to say bread and butter so far has just been forecheck hard, play physical, and get unbelievable goaltending. Vegas seems pretty well equipped to handle some of the forecheck with D-men that break the puck out really well. What are your thoughts on getting to Bobrovsky and, his performance in game one? This could be kind of an opening that maybe some other teams didn't see.
Yeah, I wasn't surprised at it, to be honest, given the extensive delay and jumping right back into a final. I thought they were really going to be challenged, whether it's Bobrovsky trying to continue that strong play out of his rhythm and jumping into a Stanley Cup Final, or the team game trying to resurrect their flow. That game one was a real uphill battle for the Florida Panthers. And that's why I also put it as a major important factor for Vegas to be able to take advantage of that and win that game. I think tonight is going to be drastically different from both sides. Let's see if Florida continues the after the whistle stuff. They love it. I enjoy it, but it dragged that game on for certainly a while the other night. And if the referees are going to start taking guys out from that, you can't afford to put yourself. Not that Vegas is lights out on the power play, but it just costs you attack time in a game. So we'll see if the power plays end up as lopsided as they were the other night, because Vegas doesn't take a lot of penalties themselves, and if they continue to call it like that, then Florida may have to adjust their after the whistle kerfuffle and shenanigans.
Just want to revisit a little bit of this kind of goaltending carousel the last few years, and there's no question that Marc-Andre Fleury was the face of this franchise to get them out of the gate. Yeah. Then they make this bold move to go get Robin Lehner, which, again, people were like scratching their heads. Now you're in deep for like millions of dollars. And let me get this straight. They're 3 wins away from having like nobodies in net, that there's no money on the cap left on all of them. Brossoit was the guy that we thought we'd kind of maybe not get them there. And then Adin Hill comes out of nowhere and does any of this make sense to you?
Well, not in a traditional approach. You went through it when you won your cup. You had a stud, and it's followed through. I was talking to somebody the other day. That's an old Doesn't Claim line. I was talking to a guy the other day. Is this the most unexpected goaltending performance by a team in recent memory? Like Matt Murray seemed to come out of nowhere with Pittsburgh. We've seen goaltenders shuffle that Cam Ward back in the day, but he was a top prospect. But this is bizarre. And Adin Hill, the reason why they went out and got Adin Hill was because Lehner came down with the double hip surgery in the summer after everything had kind of free agency had passed and there wasn't a lot left. And Sean Burke had a relationship with Adin Hill and liked him. So Adin was the backup for most of the season. And now people call him the fourth string goaltender because he wasn't the starter in the playoffs and revolved with the backup role with Jonathan Quick, and now he's the guy. Like and you're right. There's no cash in there. The highest payroll guy is Jonathan Quick, and he's your backup because you've gone 4 deep right now, 5 deep if you consider Robin Lehner. It's surreal. At times I have trouble getting my head around it. Like, who is really the backup? Who's the fourth stringer? Where does Adin Hill fall into the pecking order? Like, what do we call him? But he's I tell you what, the guy battles. I think of him as a blocker. Always thought of him as a blocker. But his athletic ability and the talent level to be able to adjust and make desperation saves, we saw it in game number 1, and he's been able to do that. He's been really impressive. And the other part is they're all free agents, except for Logan Thompson, who signed for another 2 years. Everybody else is free agents, and maybe that's a little bit of motivation for everybody too.
I got one explanation that makes all of this make sense. Sean Burke.
What?
Sean Burke.
Yeah. So Berkey, I call him, and you basically grew up with Berkey. You know him very well. Berkey, I call him the goalie whisperer, and he's like, "Stop! I've tried my whole life to shed that because he is the goalie whisperer. Everywhere he goes, he is unbelievable at goaltending." Now, Sean has aspirations and always has. He's run Olympic teams. He's been GM of World Championship teams. He can do more beyond just goaltending, and we should recognize that. But there's nobody. I would put Bill Ranford and Sean Burke right up there at the top as being able to find goaltenders and not do overhauls with them, not be overly technical, but know exactly what to do with them and how to tweak them and make them into frontline goaltenders. And he's brilliant. And the dude's just a great guy. He is so positive and so much fun. I just love the guy. And we were talking earlier this year, and this is going to be a story. Get 2 seconds. Berkey was in an All-Star game, I think in 1989. And there's a picture of Gretzky and Mario Lemieux and a face-off. And all you see is Berkey's Hartford Whaler pads. And you don't see the top part of him, but he's like, I'm in an All-Star game picture with Mario Lemieux and Wayne Gretzky. So we got him that picture off eBay and as a commemorative thing. And then this morning I'm at breakfast, and I get told about this great story involving Mario Lemieux and Doug McLean and Jack Armstrong. I'm with some PEI guys who are down, and they tell me this great story. Have you heard that story about Mario joining Doug on the golf course?
Yes, he's told that on our show. And
yeah.
he, 5 times he's told us that.
I thought I'd heard all of Doug's stories. I'd never heard that story before.
What a small world.
Yes, yes. He was so proud of it, too.
But didn't he not know it was
and that Mario went up to him and went, Doug? Like, it wasn't Doug going up to Mario saying, Ace or Mario. It had to be Mario going up to Doug. And I don't know whether that's true or not, but it's a pretty neat story.
I think he's gotten more famous since he's been a regular on our Off the Rails Friday. That's what I think.
We're helping him out. So
Off the Rails Friday.
Yeah, that's our professionalism level right now.
And it's named after him.
Of course.
So, Daren, what's the the energy there, like in Vegas, is always at fervor, right? Like not just for hockey, but there's always stuff going on. Can you sense any palpable difference with this going on, with the potential? Would we see a parade down the strip if they win?
I'm been instructed that we don't talk about that. So
okay.
I'm not going to go down that. And I'm superstitious, so I mean that would be.
It's a yes. You don't have to say anything.
They can follow the Formula One cars in November or October when they do that. But no, there's tons of energy. This place is rocking. They've always loved this team from day number one, and you would never be able to recognize this was a 6-year-old franchise. You the T-shirts, license plates, all the ancillary things around town that come with a long-standing franchise. They have it, and it's rocking. The place I'm at for breakfast this morning, they're all wearing VGK paraphernalia, hats and shirts, and they're all excited. This town. The best part about the Vegas Golden Knights to Las Vegas, or Vegas as locals call them, is it's their team. It came in. It didn't exist before. They named it after the Golden Knights with the Vegas instead of Las Vegas because that's what locals call it. It's the 1 October tragedy bonded this team, but it is their team more than the Raiders, more than the baseball team will be, whatever they name that, more than the basketball team in a couple of years. It is their own franchise.
I got an idea for a Stanley Cup ring, a roulette wheel that you spin.
Oh my God, is that a good idea? That is such a good idea.
And then it's a puck.
Someone contact a jeweler immediately.
I know you don't want to talk about it because you don't want to jinx anything.
You know what I did think about when I first joined here, and there was deep runs in the first couple of years, and I allowed myself to think about that. One of my first thoughts was, how pissed off is Kyper going to be if I ever wear a ring? Like, this is like 2 years ago.
I got a problem with that. You and the team dentist. I have a problem with having Stanley Cup rings.
I actually was going to, after this interview, was going to ask you about that.
Yeah.
Where you said it, because to be honest, it does feel a little.
We had this conversation before, and it was one of the first things I thought of. This was 2 years ago in the bubble when they had a really good team and they were on a roll. And I thought Kyper would I would have to reject it just to avoid Kipper's wrath.
No, don't do that.
I would have to reject it, and they would ask me, why would you do that? And I say, Kyper would never let me
I'll make an exception for you, but not Gary Lawless.
No, I'm with you on that regard.